All right, well, lucky for you, I'm not going to charge a cent to talk about Transformers. So here we go. All right, so to lay a little bit of groundwork, this is the book that we're going to be talking about, Transformers Exodus by Alex Irvine. This is supposed to be kind of like the basic sort of history book for what is called the aligned continuity. For those of you who don't know, it is this book, which is actually part one of a trilogy that I've not gotten my hands on the other two books of. And yeah, and then it goes on to encompass, I believe, Transformers Prime and Robots in Disguise, plus Rescue Bots, and I believe it's just the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron games. I believe that's all that's contained within the aligned continuity. I'm not sure why they gave up the aligned continuity, but I know that it's not really a thing anymore if I understand it correctly. But anyway, to lay the groundwork in the book itself, um, the Cybertron is under a caste system. So the moment you come out of the Well of All Sparks, you are assigned to a guild and a job within that guild, and that is what you do. You go in, you go out, you do your stuff, but you are stuck in that caste and in that guild until you die and rejoin the Well of All Sparks. So it's not a super great existence, especially if you're in one of the lower class and castes. Which is where Megatron is. He is a gladiator in the pits of Kaon. Well, not really. I think he was a smelter or something before he became a gladiator? But like very quickly, he just became a gladiator, and that is what he did. And he adopted the name Megatronus when he started gaining popularity because of his ideals for what Cybertron could be, and he knows like how unpopular he might be, which I'm going to read actually his exact words about why he chose the name Megatronus in a second. But then, as he's fighting, his fans shorten the name from Megatronus to Megatron. Anyway, I am wasting time, so I will just say that Orion, aka Optimus, works as an archivist in the Iacon Hall of Records under the Master Archivist Alpha Trion, aka the last of the 13 primes left on Cybertron. So, sorry that was a little bit rushed, but hopefully that's enough of a background to get started on the actual quotes. All right, so this first quote is Alpha Trion, the Master Archivist, reading a cataloged conversation between Orion and Megatron. So, let's see. Orion, in my cast, I may read and I may index, but I am forbidden to analyze. Megatron, how do you know where to index if you don't analyze first? Optimus, I try not to ask myself questions that I don't have answers I can do anything about. Megatron, who has told you that you can't do anything about the answers? I never even had a name. I went out to die for the pleasure of strangers. Now I am Megatron, and I will fight when and where and for what reasons I please. Optimus, fight who? Megatron, those who would tell me, like they tell you, that we do not have the right to determine our own fates. Interesting that even in the Iacon my words are being heard. Optimus, it is my task to hear all words. Megatron, but you don't answer all of what you hear. And surely you don't answer all of what you hear on channels that you hide for fear of being eavesdropped on. Optimus, no. Megatron, a great many Cybertronians would love to have Iacon as their home. Yet you are there and still unsatisfied. What does that tell you? Optimus, we should meet. Megatron, should we? Why should I meet you? Orion, if you have goals beyond Kaon, you're going to need to tailor your message so that it will resonate beyond the castes who smelt ore and die in the pits. Megatron, or the rest of Cybertron should learn to understand those castes. Even you do not, and you consider yourself one of us. Optimus, then show me what I do not understand. Also, sorry, I'm going to probably end up using Orion and Optimus interchangeably, because, anyway. But yeah, so Megatron is starting to enlighten Optimus and expose him to new ideas. And so Orion and Megatron continue conversations, and Orion is starting to ask some questions and about like what Megatron is planning and all of that. He says, and Megatron says, I have other associates considering those questions too. Megatron said, and he would say no more. This made Orion Pax nervous. For a good reason, according to Jazz. Jazz is like Orion's closest friend at this point. You need to be very sure that you know what you're getting into here, his friend said. I'll stand by and watch, whatever happens. but you could be letting yourself in for serious consequences. Right now, you're just talking. The minute you do more than that, there are laws involved. Are you prepared to break laws? Because Orion Pax didn't have a good answer for this question, he asked it of Megatron. Who makes the laws? Was Megatron's answer. Did anyone consult you? Did anyone consult me? Orion Pax had no answer for that either. Listen, my friend, Jazz said. What would happen if any time any one of us felt left out of the law-making process, he started a revolution? Can you imagine what this place would look like? No, Orion Pax said. We're a long way from that. We've got the opposite, don't you see? Nobody ever says anything. Who decided that we should be in castes? And what do our leaders say about it now? Nothing was the answer to that. Sentinel Prime was not a visible leader, and the High Council busied itself with the minutiae of governance and avoided the big questions. All right, and then another one I want to read is kind of Orion's thoughts about Megatron, and then it's like part of another conversation. He, Megatron, was difficult to ignore, and when he spoke of individual freedom, it was easy to think, no matter how many Cybertronians might be in his audience, that he was talking directly to you. Still, Orion Pax had never met him in person. He wasn't sure the risk was worth it. In truth, he wasn't even sure what the risks were. Megatron began to encourage him. If you would understand Cybertron, librarian, you must see Kaon, he said. And maybe if you saw Iacon, you would understand Cybertron better yourself, countered Orion Pax. Oh, I will see Iacon. Have no fear of that, Megatron said. Something about the tone of his voice made Orion Pax want to change the subject. The last thing he wanted to do was provoke a fight with Megatron when he was just beginning to understand what Megatron's ideas meant, and what he, Orion Pax, had to contribute to the discussion. He believed some things in common with the hard-bitten survivor of Kaon's pits, but in other ways, he felt that despite their commonalities, there were fundamental differences in the way they approached the questions of freedom and will. Sorry, I kind of have to stop to catch my breath a little bit. Why Megatronus? He asked. He had heard Megatron answer the question before in slightly different ways. He moved along, refining his ideas and rhetoric. Orion Pax realized he was witnessing the growth and rise of a genuinely important leader. But of what? And where would he lead? I assume the name of one of the 13, because although only one of them ever called himself the Fallen, they all fell away from their original mission. They all failed their future, which is our present. I took that name because the principles I believe in have fallen. Freedom has no caste, so there is no place for it in Cybertron today. History makes some bots villains for doing what they thought to be right. And if that happens to me as well, so be it. I can only do what is the right thing to do. So, already we're kind of seeing that Megatron is a little bit more of a revolutionary, and Orion is more of a reformer. Yeah, then we get this little interesting conversation. Who is us? Orion Pax asked a few solar cycles later. Whoever wants to be, Megatron said with a laugh. When you're taking on the world, you can't be choosy about who wants to be on your side. So you have followers in Kaon, Orion Pax said. Where else? That's the kind of question a spy would ask. If you were worried about that, we would have stopped talking a long time ago. Perhaps, perhaps not. Soundwave says I should worry that you will betray me, Megatron laughed. I say back to him that if I thought you were going to betray me, I would meet you in the arena and settle things like warriors. Would you fight me in the ring for your principles, librarian? Can you tell your principles from mine? I think I can, Orion Pax said, and I would fight anyone for them. As he said it, he realized it was true. And so, that's kind of the first hint that, if Orion does not conform specifically to Megatron's vision of how things are going to go, there might be some trouble for Orion. And so then Orion brings up that interaction to Jazz. And let's see. Did I tell you that Megatron said he'd fight me if he thought I was going to betray him? Orion Pax said. Very funny, Jazz said. He did. Then watch your back, Jazz said. If he brought that up, he's already half convinced himself it will eventually happen. Orion Pax laughed. Then he said, I better get practicing and learn how to fight. Which, holy foreshadowing, Batman! But anyway, those are all of the passages that I have time to read in this video, so let me know if you want to be in the tag list for the second part and any other parts that come. Because I keep finding more and more passages, and this might be multiple parts, we'll see. So let me know if you want to be on the tag list, and I really hope you enjoyed this.